Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Connection, the place that we gather each week to connect with each other, whether it be in person here in the building at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, or you're joining us online. Everyone is welcome to join however you want to. We will begin today with our daily devotion from the book Fully Awake 365. Yesterday began a brand new month, the month of May, which means we have a new monthly theme, and it is, I'm not in trouble, I'm in transition. And that is a lovely way to think about things when issues come up in our lives from time to time. Let's start by preparing our hearts and opening our minds with our prayer of surrender. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will, bring to me what you will, take from me what you will, awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me, the Christ mind is in me, the Christ power flows through me, and the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it, I perceive it, and now I receive it. I am surrendered. Amen. And so it is. All right, today's devotion is called Just Say No. Does anyone remember that phrase being popularized back in the 80s by former First Lady Nancy Reagan? It was it was her slogan, actually, for her campaign against drugs, specifically aimed at young people. But that's not quite the context we'll be talking about it, saying no in today. And as we get on and get further into the text, you'll see what the kind of no we're going to be talking about. But first, let's recite the affirmation together. If you have your books here, or it'll be on the screen for those of you at home. I know today that an appropriate no is just the starting point for the many yeses that will open the door for me to live my life more fully and abundantly. Okay, so as I said, our theme for the month of May is I'm not in trouble, I'm in transition. And when we talk about transition, the word itself lets us know that there is some movement occurring, okay? We're transitioning or moving from one place to another place, whether it's a physical move or an emotional shift or a spiritual one. And as I spoke about a little on Sunday, sometimes you run into trouble if you try to shift gears or change directions too quickly. When you're driving a car and you're in drive, you can't just immediately shift into reverse or vice versa. First of all, you have to put on the brakes, you have to slow down. And if you'll notice, on every gear shift in automatic cars, that neutral gear is between the reverse and the drive. And if you're driving a manual, what we call a stick shift, I had to learn how to drive one of those long eons ago. You'll know that in the middle, that is that neutral place. And every time you put the clutch in and go from one gear to another, you got to move through that middle neutral gear first. So that's what transition in our lives represents. It's that neutral place that you stop in temporarily before arriving in a different place. And sometimes if you're not fully awake and aware, you can feel like you're stuck, okay? And you can get stuck there if you choose not to move out of the neutral gear. If you freeze up because you're afraid or anxious or discouraged or overly tired, then you won't continue moving. But here's the thing, it's always up to you. Let me read you really quickly a quote by Danielle Laporte from her book that we've read from a couple of times before, How to Be Loving. She says, "You are never stuck. Even when you think you're stuck, you're actually connected to a highly dynamic world. Everything in the universe is continually shifting in response to everything else in the universe. You are always changing." Okay, so to go with our theme, we could also say, you are always transitioning. And as we know, The only constant in the whole universe is change. So one of the ways we can get ourselves out of a place where we're feeling stuck is surprisingly by learning how and when to say no appropriately. Now, we talk a lot around here about saying yes and being open and accepting the moment as it is and loving it all, as we should. But let's go now to the first line of the text of our devotion, which says, saying no can be positive sometimes. Okay, so let's think about that. That's a paradox. Let's look at some examples. For instance, when you know your own self-worth and you find yourself in a situation where it's not being recognized by others. This is the no Rosa Parks felt on the bus that day. It's the no black men felt as they carried signs saying, "I am a man." It's the no the prodigal son felt when he, the son of a prominent, influential man, looked around and realized he was eating and living with pigs. It's the no every addict feels when they realize an addiction has taken over their life, changed everything about them, and they finally say no more. It's the no you feel when you're tired of living every day with the disempowering thought patterns of fear and negativity, and you make a decision right then and there to make a change. In other words, it's when you remember your divinity and you say, I'm better than this, but not in an egotistical or ego-driven, entitled way. This is talking about, as the devotion stated in the beginning, when you know the situation you're in and that you're allowing yourself to stay in is beneath the dignity of your own divinity. That's what I'm talking about when that's the I'm better than this I'm talking about. My older son has a tattoo all the way across his chest that says, remember who you are. Because that's what his dad and I told him every time he left the house when he was little, which meant behave yourself and act like you know who you are. And so that's the next little piece I want to bring in here. As children of God, as divine beings, we shouldn't be living and eating with pigs. And I'm not, you might say, well, are you calling some people pigs? No, I'm not. But it's up to us to recognize our divinity, our station as a child of God, and to remember who we are and behave accordingly. Just because you're behaving like a pig doesn't make you a pig, but it's always your choice how you want to behave. And one option you always have available to you is behaving like a pig. So, but somewhere down inside, you know that is less than what you're worth. So the good news is you can change your behavior at any time you want to. And sometimes the transition, which is what we're talking about this month, from how you're currently behaving to how you know you should be behaving, starts with saying no to that bad or unconscious, low vibrational behavior. Like it said in the affirmation, an appropriate no is just a starting point for the many yeses that will open the door to a full and abundant life for you. So it's not a no like that old cereal commercial from the 70s, that old Life cereal commercial with the three little boys that were brothers, and none of them wanted to try the cereal because their mom had told them it was good for them. And they said, let's give it to Mikey. And the other boy said, he won't eat it. He hates everything. So it's not just that immediate no because you're being obstinate and you don't want to try or change anything. It's not that kind of no. It's what this kind of no can be a positive no. The last paragraph of the text tells us this. This kind of no begins an emotional chain reaction and sets into motion an energetic shift within you that ripples out through every part of your life. Learning to say no appropriately is just as important as learning to say yes. So, it's the other side of the coin. It's the balance. It's rightly dividing. It's learning how to use your discernment. When you know who you are, then you also know who you're not. which includes knowing the places and situations you shouldn't be in and activities you shouldn't be participating in because they're not contributing to or leading you to your highest good and your highest self. So sometimes you just got to say no. Let's end the devotion by saying today's prayer together. Source of divine guidance, help me today to have the courage to say no to the things in my life that are holding me back and hindering my growth. Amen.